The SEC and Big Ten are getting all the early headlines, but the Big 12 just put 3 teams in the Sweet 16 on Saturday, withstanding major comeback efforts in 2 of those games.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Welcome into another live edition of the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your hosts. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Schade, joining us again here on another late night after an incredible slate of college basketball games as we get closer and closer to having the full Sweet 16 field set. One more day of action before we're going to know which teams are competing for those spots in the Elite Eight and Final Four. Want to thank all of you for making the show your first listen or your first watch of the day, especially those of you who've been with us throughout the college basketball season. Give a special shout out to the everydayers and those of you who are hanging out with us in the Locked On College Basketball Discord channel. We also have a bracket challenge, Locked On College Basketball Bracket Challenge. And we don't mean to brag, but yours truly and Isaac here are the top 2 people in that bracket. So hopefully those of you in there, maybe you'll get a chance to take us down as we get close to that Sweet 16. Folks, today's episode of Locked On College Basketball brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 different flavors to choose from. And if you need one now, grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. You can stock up today to stay energized. Isaac, tons of good stuff to get to on today's show. We're going to talk about John Calipari beating Rick Patino. That was one of the early games today. We're going to talk about that win for Arkansas, what it means for them, what it means for the Johnnies. We're going to talk about the D2 Drake Bulldogs team put up a valiant effort against Texas Tech, ultimately go down. We're going to talk about what that means for them. We'll talk about what it means for Texas Tech as well as the 2 other Big 12 teams that won. We're going to start with those 2 games because they kind of went on a very similar trajectory. They were both on at around the same time. So, of course, Houston, the number 1 seed over Gonzaga, the number 8 seed, and then BYU, the 6 seed, beating Wisconsin, the 3 seed. And in both these games, the Big 12 team kind of had a decent lead. They were up 8-10-ish points for kind of the majority of the contest. And then Gonzaga and Wisconsin both had these huge comeback efforts, had opportunities to tie or win the game in the closing seconds. Neither were able to do so. So in a season where the conversation has been so much about the SEC, so much about the Big Ten that for a very long time had not lost a game until UCLA. And then at the end, we now have 3 of our 8 teams that are so far in the Sweet 16. They're coming out of the Big 12 conference.
That's what happens in the NCAA tournament. You know, it's like, I feel like the last several years, that's been the ACC where it's like, oh, the ACC and it, and then they've got like half the Final Four or something like that. Mm-hmm. And this year that might be the Big 12, the 3rd best conference this year, which is crazy to think about. But Andy, you talked about those 2 games. I was just looking back at like latest score in both of them. BYU, Wisconsin was happening earlier. That game, BYU led by 11 with 2:15 to go.
Wow.
In the other one, Houston led by 10 with 2:35 to go. So almost identically paralleled at time and score and situation. And literally, as you said, both teams wind up here having a shot at the end to tie or take the lead. The John Tonje gets to the baseline. Some great defense from BYU shuts that off. And then unfortunately for Gonzaga, didn't have a timeout there at the end. And so couldn't really set up a good effective play. And Houston's and basically, just shuts off any hope of that last second 3-point attempt. And that's the game, Andy. Let's start with that because this is the game that is featuring a 9 straight tournament Sweet 16 streak against a 5 straight tournament Sweet 16 streak. And unfortunately for Gonzaga, their 9 streak tournament comes to an end while Houston's goes to 6. And Andy, I think I want to start at the very end where the emotion and the humanity of this thing just comes in such bold relief in these moments. The finality of it, where Caleb Battle, I'm getting emotional thinking about it. Just crushed at his inability to get off a final shot there. Falls into Kelvin Sampson's arms in the handshake line. and of course, excuse me, Kevin Sampson, if you know, you know. And Coach Sampson, of course, being the dude that he is, wraps him up, consoles him very well. And that's just so much respect between these competitors. And Andy, that's why we love what we get to do, man, right there.
Four starters were seniors in Gonzaga's lineup, all guys who do not have any more eligibility. So it's going to be a very new look team next year. The fifth starter is Graham Ike, who technically has another year of eligibility, but has been in college for more than 4 years. So it's very possible all five of those players for Gonzaga will be out the door next year. We don't have anything official on Graham other than some speculation. But yeah, tough to see for the Zags team. Ryan Nembhard finishes this game with 11 assists, another double-double. 10 points, 11 assists for him. He finishes his incredible season. And we've talked about it a little bit on the show, but in a year where Braden Smith and Cam Jones and Zakai Zegler and Donovan Dent and others are getting all the attention for being like the best guards in college basketball, Ryan Nembhard finished this season with 344 assists. That is the fifth highest mark recorded in college basketball history. And it is the second highest mark recorded since 1990 in college basketball. The highest being Kendall Marshall from the 2011-2012 North Carolina Tar Heels, who had 351. So Nembhard was 7 assists away, meaning if Gonzaga had won this game, he probably would have gotten 7 assists against Purdue, maybe 8, and potentially, he averaged 10 on the year. So really sad to see Nembhard's career end the way that it did. Obviously, Caliph Battle, as you mentioned, wasn't really his fault. It was kind of a sloppy handoff, and it wasn't even really Graham Ike's fault on the handoff. I think Milo Suzon just kind of jumped the play because they knew that they were going to run a high dribble handoff to get an open three because the Zags didn't have a timeout, and so they didn't get to run any kind of play there at the end. Just unfortunate how that ended for Gonzaga. But Houston, just LJ Cryer dropped 30 in this game. Houston made 50% of their threes. Just a phenomenal performance from the Cougs. They're a team that I think has a very real chance of winning the championship. I think they're a little bit overlooked amongst the other one seeds. A lot of conversation about Auburn's weak finish to the season. Duke and Florida are kind of the consensus championship favorites. And yet Houston, if they're going to knock down 50% of their threes, if LJ Cryer is going to hit tough shot after tough shot after tough shot, this team's going to be really, really difficult to beat. And they proved it on Saturday night.
Yeah, Andy, for LJ, that ties his career high. It's the third time he's done it, the second time in regulation. But man, I was so impressed. We've been so worried about Juwan Roberts' ankle. He comes out and drops 18 points. JoJo Tugler has a double-double. It's crazy stuff. And you said it, like, I know Houston, we were talking about this last week in the car on the way to the airport together. Houston doesn't take a ton of threes, but it doesn't matter. If they're going to hit him at this clip, if they're going to defend like every Houston team ever and run other efficient, who's going to beat that? Yeah. Crazy good stuff, Andy, for them. And so moving on to the Sweet 16 here for the sixth season in a row. And Andy, as we look at that other Big 12 result we were talking about, BYU up over Wisconsin, and John Tonje in a losing effort has the most points by a Wisconsin Badger in any NCAA tournament game ever. 37, if I remember. I'm not looking at the box score. I just don't have it. I have it, but I'm not pulling it up right now. But Andy, what's so like at a massive picture level, at the macro level, how about Kevin Smith getting to the Sweet 16? Kevin Young. Kevin Smith is the actor. Is that Paul Bart Malcop? Paul Bart Malcop?
That's Kevin James. You'll get there though.
Who's Kevin Smith? There's a Kevin Smith. Anyway, Kevin Young. Of course I should have remembered it's Young. Mormon, right? It's a very Mormon last name. Yes. Kevin Young, first year as the BYU head coach, has him in the Sweet 16, right? The last stop on the coaching carousel that SMU started, which is funny because John Calipari, we're about to talk about, was part of that carousel too, and is also in the Sweet 16. How crazy would it be if Kentucky makes it to Miami? Like, wow, I'm just putting that all together right now in real time. That's nuts, man. But great stuff for BYU here. Great comeback for Wisconsin, but just like for Gonzaga, unfortunately, it falls shy.
Yeah, you look at these two games in particular. Sampson and Few both have over 700 wins. Greg Gard's been around forever. Kevin Young being the new coach, the young coach out of the group here, and he's the one who has a tremendous game, a fantastic season for BYU overall, of course, just to be in this position. By the way, Kevin Smith is the director of Clerks. That's probably who you were looking for there. But
the director of what?
Clerks, the movie Clerks. You never seen Clerks?
Oh. I thought you just meant like a job, like he directs all the clerks in the world.
Anyway, very impressed with BYU this year. The Big 12, again, we're going to talk about Drake, Texas Tech as well. Texas Tech getting the W there, even not at full strength, obviously playing an underseeded team in that case, whereas BYU pulled off an upset and Houston had to beat an incredibly good team in Gonzaga. But still, I'm impressed with the Big 12 so far. I think, again, everybody talked about the Big 10 not losing any of their first games until, again, UCLA lost. But for the Big 10, they didn't beat any single-digit seeds. I'm not saying I'm not impressed with what the Big 10 did, but they didn't beat any single-digit seeds. Like, it's just not as impressive when you frame it that way. Whereas I think these were really quality wins for the Big 12. And again, I think Houston is a legitimate title contender. I think BYU, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up being the team that faces Duke in the Elite Eight. I don't know if I can pick them against Duke, especially a fully healthy Duke team, but I'll tell you what, my bracket has BYU being the team in that game. And Texas Tech, I know you have them going far. And frankly, they look, especially with St. John's out of the mix, which we're going to talk about here in a second, Texas Tech going to the Final Four, at least the Elite Eight, doesn't seem out of the question as well.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Yes, my bracket is doing well in that regard. Look, BYU is going to have to contend with either St. Mary's or Alabama, and that either way, that's going to be an awesome game. Yeah. Okay, Kevin Smith, it's coming to me now. We're talking Jay and Silent Bob here, right?
Yes. There you go.
Okay, now I'm tracking. I got all my Kevins ironed out here. Yeah, I also have an uncle named Kevin, but his last name's Alsop. So
you're ready there. Good.
None of those people are these Kevins. So anyway, really good stuff here by these Big 12 teams holding on. And unfortunately for Wisconsin with their great season where we were like, oh, Wisconsin plays offense now. Man, great stuff there. We'll see how they fare this offseason. And that's the immediacy of all this, Andy. But that's just where it's at and what happens in these moments. Okay, Andy, we mentioned John Calipari just a second ago. He's now in the Sweet 16 for the first time, Andy, since 2019. And he had to knock off 2 Hall of Fame coaches to get there. We're going to talk about that and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about our friends at Nissan. Look, we're all about the stats here at Locked On. Like naming all the Kevins in the world, right? We love that because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. So whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. So take your adventure to new heights right now in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. Andy, I got to tell you about my favorite Kevin. His name's Kevin McAllister. And he knows how to set a bunch of traps in his house and how to go to the convenience store and pick up milk, eggs, and fabric softener.
He's got it down. He has got it down. What a kid.
Like, honestly, I wanted to be him growing up. Macaulay Culkin, we love you. Okay, Andy, Arkansas, 10th-seeded Arkansas against second-seeded St. John's. The Hogs win this thing 75-66. Woo! How do they call the Hogs? I've never tried to do it before, but I know it's a thing they do at the University of Arkansas. I'd love to learn.
If you want me to imitate it, you're not going to get it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it.
Okay. I think we need to talk to John Neighbors about this and learn it. The great
we can
host
let him do it.
Oh, I'm sure he would do it. The great host of Locked On Razorbacks. Well, Andy, we said it in the teaser there, but it's been since 2019 since John Calipari was in the Sweet 16. Last 4 seasons at UK. Missed the NCAA tournament altogether in 2021. First round exit to St. Peter's in 22. St. Peter's, remember, all the way to the Elite 8. Crazy stuff there. And then a second round exit against Kansas State. And last year, the famous first round loss to Oakland, the Fightin' Jack Golkeys. And so, Andy, then, that all sets up Coach Cal leaving Kentucky, coming over to Arkansas. And it's just like, it's not going that well. Boogie Flan gets hurt. They lose their first 6 SEC games, if memory serves. And it's just like, boy, this is ungood. But here we sit, Andy, on Sunday, March 12th, or 12th, 23rd. I don't know numbers. We love stats here at Locked On. Let me tell you about the Nissan all-new. And so we have these 2 Hall of Fame coaches squaring off in the second round with Coach Cal, Coach Patino. It's massive right? We've got 3 national championships between them. We had Coach Patino doing that video for Coach Cal earlier this season when he was going to Rupp to play against them. It's the 5th head-to-head all time between these two coaches. The first 4 of them all won by head coach at Kentucky. Whichever coach was there won the first 4 meetings. But Andy, crazy stuff. And John Calipari's team, without their leading scorer, leading rebounder, and leading stealser, wins this basketball game. Andy, how did it happen?
Yeah, if you told me back when Arkansas was 0-6 to start conference play, if you had told me then that they would beat Bill Self and Rick Patino in the NCAA tournament, that they would advance to the Sweet 16, and that they would do it without a Due Thiero, there's just zero chance that I would have believed you at that time. This team was in, and like, again, we kind of expect teams with a whole new roster to take some time. It's, this new era of college basketball, it's still fresh. And the majority of teams, while they have a lot of roster turnover more than before, most teams aren't completely overhauling their roster the way that like Louisville and Kentucky and Arkansas did, where Arkansas had 1 player return in Brazil. But like, you kind of expected, okay, maybe it's going to take them a little bit of time, but Arkansas never really looked all that great in the regular season. They got enough big wins to get into the field, and they deserved it. They deserved to be in the tournament, but they weren't a particularly compelling team outside of the Calipari of it all in terms of thinking they'd be a Sweet 16 team. And then they draw Kansas in the first game, and Kansas is just kind of a team that was frankly circling the drain. They just didn't look good in the really most of the season, but certainly not at the end of the season. And so you're like, okay, maybe Arkansas can pull off the W there. They do. And then they go out and beat a really good St. John's team in a game that was just tough and physical. And there was a lot of missed shots. There was a lot of fouls called. There was just a lot happening in this basketball game. But what really impressed me for Arkansas was that the job got done by the 2 freshmen that weren't Boogie Fland. Boogie Fland was fine. Yeah. He was fine in a relatively small role. He didn't shoot the ball super well, but he did some good stuff. But the 2 leading scorers for Arkansas in this game, it wasn't Fland, it wasn't Ivasic, it wasn't DJ Wagner or Adu or anybody like that. It was Billy Richmond and Carter Knox, the 2 freshmen coming off the bench. Knox started this game. He had 15, 6, and 4 blocks. He was 9 of 11 from the free throw line. Billy Richmond came off the bench, almost had a double-double, 16 points, 9 boards. He was 6 of 10. These 2 guys were excellent. They were gobbling up rebounds. They were defending well. Like we said, Knox got to the free throw line 11 times. Like, they completely punished one of the most tough teams in the country in St. John's. I was extremely impressed by what they did on both ends of the floor. And it's a testament to Coach Cal, and it's a testament to this Arkansas program that they were able to rely on those guys in a crucial situation against a really good team and come out of it ahead.
Man, it's just crazy stuff, Andy. Like, I just didn't expect it, I think, and here we sit with it, and it's really crazy for RJ Lewis, man. I'm shocked. I'm just shocked at how bad that went. We've got the Big East Player of the Year, starts 0 for 7, 5 of those being bunnies, and just misses every one of them. 3 of 17 on the day, and he's not even playing this game, Andy, at the end of it. And I just, you and I have talked already today about it. Was that the right play, right? There's so much coaching philosophy in that of like, do you stick with your superstar even though he's struggling, right? Like, it would be similar to like, we've got 1 shot to win this game. Do we give that shot to our struggling superstar, the conference player of the year, or do we give that shot to somebody else that's having a much better day in his place?
Right.
And obviously that wasn't the specific scenario here, but that's what we're looking at. I think I still give that shot to my best player.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's just, there's so much more to it that we're just not exactly privy to in terms of like, how is this kid handling this? Like, is this somebody who shuts down when they're having a bad day? Is this somebody who doesn't emotionally handle? And I'm not saying that's the case here. I don't know. But again, some of those things kind of come into play of like, is his body language impacting other players on the floor to the point where he's just, we can't play him anymore. And I didn't see anything like that. But, Rick in theory would know that stuff better than anybody. And, he benched Lewis because, and what it did seem like to us from watching was, Lewis, when he's not making his shots, he wasn't really impacting the game. Like he wasn't able to step back and, okay, I'm going to be a facilitator or I'm going to, work my butt off defensively. Like he was fine in those areas, but his impact on this game was really thwarted by his inability to make shots. And I think Patino just said, look, we have to trust our other guys to step up on an off night for RJ. And, you can question the decision folks did. They asked Patino about it after the game. He wasn't super happy about being asked about it. He said, quote, he played 30 minutes. You're asking leading questions and you know the answers. Don't ask me any questions. You know why he didn't play. So he was, and he went on and said, like, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. And it's like, okay, like you sort of already did, but I get it. Like it's a tough situation, and he had to make a tough call there for a kid that really just was not having a good day. But again, it wasn't just him. I mean, these two teams combined shot 9.8% from three. Like nobody was making shots. Nobody was knocking him down. It was just tough physical game, and St. John's wasn't able to come out on top of it. But yeah, it's tough to not feel for a kid who this was a big moment for him and an opportunity to really shine on a big stage coming out of being the best player in that conference. And when the moment was shining on him, he didn't step up. And you know, that's the greatness of March is when guys do step up in those moments, and we have the legends like the Jack Golkes or whomever it may be. But for every game that somebody steps up, there's somebody who doesn't. And Lewis was quite notably that player in this game early on Saturday.
Yeah, man, that's a bummer. And obviously, Andy, this means that St. John's very special season comes to an end, having captured the heart of the city. You know, we've talked about it. They were on Jimmy Fallon. Spike Lee was in the building for this game in Providence. Like that's so big time. And I think there's a lot to be said about what that means for the now and the future. Because I don't think this is Rick Pitino's last stop, and he's not going anywhere. And I think he will have plenty more talent coming. One other SEC game we want to hit on here before we move on is Auburn, number 1 overall seed, knocking off the number 9 Creighton Blue Jays 82-70. Creighton actually up at the half in this game, Andy, 37-35. Was kind of like, what is going on there? But Auburn did their stuff coming out of the half. Chad Baker-Mazara was having a great game. Unfortunately, came down, hurt his hip in some way. It seems like Coach Pearl isn't too concerned about it. He said after the game that CBM, quote, probably got a pretty good bruise, and, quote, hopefully that's all it is. Chad, you know, obviously he's a $175 soaking wet, and he's got a bony butt. So when he lands on the ground, bam, it's wood on bone. So we'll see what happens. They're off till Friday. It's not a Thursday, Saturday region. So that's helpful there for Auburn being in the South regional. But we'll see what happens. And Andy, I was curious because CBM was having such a great game. Like, who steps up in his absence? And for me, you know, I thought maybe it was going to be the National Player of the Year candidate, Janai Broom. He only had 8 points in this game, Andy. Yeah. Really, for me, it was Tahad Pettiford. I believe, if my math is correct, he had 13 of his 23 points after Chad Baker-Mazara went out of this game. And it feels like he's done this all season long, Andy, right? In the biggest games, here comes this precocious freshman, and he's just the dude.
Yeah, he absolutely got it done when Auburn needed it. I was really impressed with his performance. And again, if he's playing like that, if he can step up when this team, like, I mean, again, the depth for Bruce Pearl's team has always been one of the biggest calling cards for this program. And to lose somebody like Baker-Mazara and have a true freshman step up and contribute down the stretch against a tough Creighton team, a potentially underseeded Creighton team, is really good sign for things to come for Auburn. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, for Auburn's regional, it's in Atlanta, which for those who aren't aware, that's just like an hour and a half drive up I-20 from Auburn, Alabama to Atlanta. So a pretty good situation here for the I almost said the Crimson Tide. My bad. I'm so sorry, all you Alabama fans and Auburn fans out there. And you know what I mean. The Tigers, WDE. Let's go.
Well, we already talked about 2 of the Big 12 teams that got W's on Saturday. We want to talk about Texas Tech taking down like kind of the plucky underdog that everybody was rooting for, the Drake Bulldogs, the D2 Drake team. We're going to talk about that game. We're going to talk about the rest of the results that we got on Saturday as well. All that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, daylight saving time, it snuck up on me again. It always does every year. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. That extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you just need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up watching NCAA tournament games or your favorite Locked On podcast, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Isaac and I have been staying up super late covering the NCAA tournament. Right now, as we record this live, I am leaving for the airport to go to Dallas in 5.5 hours. So I'm going to tell you what, I need my 5-hour energy. That is the jolt that I need to help keep me going into the next day, whether I'm at a game, whether I'm traveling. 5-hour energy is easy to grab and helps keep me feeling refreshed. So head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 different flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. And if you need one right now, grab a 5-hour energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, Isaac, closing out the show with the rest of the games on Saturday. There's 8 games on Saturday. We've already talked about 4 of them. I want to talk about the other ones here quickly before we get you out for Sunday's incredible slate of games. And then we'll have a full look at the Sweet 16. We will know which teams are going to be competing for a national championship. We'll start here with the 11-seeded Drake Bulldogs falling to the 3-seeded Red Raiders of Texas Tech. Tech wins this one 77-65 without Chance McMillan. Really impressive win for them without one of their better players. And what I like about this Texas Tech team is that they can kind of beat you multiple different ways. We've seen them. They can beat you from the outside. They can beat you from the inside. And this was a really impressive win against, a Drake team that, yes, they're a mid-major team. Yes, they're from the Missouri Valley Conference. Yes, most of these guys, pretty much all of their starters were at the D2 level last year. But this is not just some like plucky, happy to be here team. This is a really good basketball club. Ben McCollum's a tremendous coach. And they came out and they put up a heck of a fight. But yeah, this Texas Tech team, like we talked about with Houston, like we talked about with BYU, they have a lot of resolve and moxie, and they were able to find a way to get a W here against a team that gave them everything they had.
Yeah, Andy. I mean, like, I just, there's so many fun stories on both sides of this. There's so many fun stories at the big picture level. You heard us talk about this on yesterday's show or the show before. Like, Ben McCollum and Grant McCasland are like legit friends. They vacation together. They've talked about coaching together, but Coach McCollum still wanted to be a head coach. So he stayed at D2 Northwest Missouri State, just a couple hours up the road from where I live, interestingly enough. And so, and here they are now having to play each other in the big dance. And what a cool thing that's got to be like. Yeah. Andy, I got to imagine at some point tonight, they stood together and said, look around at where we are. Like, that's just fun, man. That, again, yes, it's about the basketball, but I think we can never forget how much this is about the stories and the people and what they're doing. And so we'll get to the Toppin-Williams combo here in a second, Andy. But, we've talked so much about the fact that Ben McCollum came from the D2 level, winning those 4 national championships. And we've talked about Bennett Sturts, the Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year, coming up from the D2 level with him, 19 points a game and leading Drake in so many categories. But what a lot of folks might not realize is that it ain't just Bennett Sturts, Andy. Daniel Abreu came from the same school with him, and he's averaging 10 points a game. Mitch Muscari, 9.8, and Isaiah Jackson, 3.2. 4 of Drake's 5 starters were from that Northwest Missouri team, Andy. Yeah. 4 D2 starters at the D1 level. And here they are winning 31 games at the D1 level, knocking off, winning an NCAA. I mean, it's just what a storyline this is, Andy. I'm just blown away by what they've done. And so, Andy, we got to imagine that Ben McCollum's not going to be around Drake too long, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunate for Drake, but yes, he's going to find himself potentially coaching against Grant McCasland a lot more, either because he ends up in the Big 12 or because he ends up in a power conference where maybe they'll meet up fairly regularly in the NCAA tournament. Who knows? But I did want to ask you, you put in our notes that there's a player who was at Drake last year who's transferred to Texas Tech. You put Overton. You didn't put his first name. Do you happen to know what it is, Isaac?
Yeah, Kevin Overton, who is part of the rotation for Texas Tech, had 1 free throw in this game. But, yeah, I mean, he played 20 minutes in this game. Kevin Overton, a big part of that Texas Tech rotation, was on Drake's team last year. And when Coach DeVries left to go to West Virginia, he was going to transfer out and, thought about, just what am I going to do? Ultimately, it was a really good situation for him in Lubbock. And so that's where he wound up. And if I remember correctly, Andy, and don't quote me on this, I think at least in part, it was because of the Ben McCollum, Grant McCasland connection that got him to love it.
I am very impressed by the amount of information you just dropped. I only said that because of all the Kevin conversation we had earlier in the show, but I am very happy that you had a ton of Kevin Overton information for us. That was not a pre-planned tease to get you to talk about him, but well done. Well done.
I just walked right into your Kevin trap. I was like, this doesn't feel like Andy. I feel like he knows who Kevin Overton is. What
I do.
Dude, that's so good. Andy, I've never been so proud of you as I am right now.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. You just knocked out like 35 seconds of Kevin Overton knowledge on us. That was awesome. Should we talk about what JT Toppin and Darren Williams did?
Because we absolutely should talk about that, man. Go. It's crazy.
So these two guys, JT Toppin, obviously the New Mexico transfer, one of the best players in the Big 12 this year, Darren Williams, they basically did everything for Texas Tech, particularly in the first half of this game. They had 33 of Tech's 37 points at the half. They had more points than Drake combined, the two of them did. They had 39 of their 43 at one point. They ended up finishing with 53 of their 77. But yeah, again, at one point, 41 out of 49. Like, it was just insane what those two guys were able to do. Like we talked about kind of earlier, this is a team that can beat you multiple different ways. If they want to just pound the ball down low and let JT Toppin go to work, they can do that. If they want to beat you off the dribble, if they want to beat you from the perimeter, like they have a lot of different weapons and depth. And you know, we mention the depth as much as we want. At the end of the day, in this game, they just needed two guys. They just needed two guys to absolutely, completely dominate this Drake team. And again, I think I'm really interested to see what Tech looks like against Arkansas. I think that's going to be an incredibly fun matchup, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Grant McCasland and the Red Raiders are in the Final Four. Frankly, they're good enough to be in that conversation and truly contending for a national championship. Health would be very helpful. Getting McMillan back would be super helpful. Yeah. We did see Williams go down. It looked scary, but he ended up coming back. So hopefully that's not something that impacts him at all down the stretch.
Yeah, Andy, that game's out in San Francisco, so a long flight for both of these schools is going to be crazy. That we'll get the other two teams in that region set tomorrow. The top half is Florida, UConn, first tip of the day on Sunday, and then Colorado State, Maryland. So a lot of good stuff. Man, I would love a Derek Queen, JT Toppin matchup in the Elite Eight. I don't know that we'll get it, but that'd be crazy. Andy, Michigan, Texas A&M, 5-seed Wolverines against the 4-seeded Aggies. Michigan wins this thing 91-79. Don't let that final score, like A&M really closed this thing. Wade Taylor IV had a beautiful three that, like, I think 2/3 of the basketball were beneath the horizon of the rim, and that would have cut it to 2, like right there at the end of the game. And it's one of those that just boggled around and popped out somehow. And that was kind of it for A&M. They had to foul, and that's why the thing. But Andy, one of the stories of this game was Pharrell Payne. Like, this dude has back-to-back 25-plus point games. I didn't even look back at how much he finished with. I just remember when he had 25.
I think it was exactly 25 in both games, I think.
Okay. 26, Andy, you were way off on today's game. Come on, what you got to do better.
So that means he set his career high at 25 and then broke it in the next game at 26. And didn't he? What did he average on the year? Like a lot
less than that. It was less than that. What Kevin?
He averaged just under 10.
The answer's Kevin. No, he averaged on the year 9.9 points a game. So yeah, more than doubled his season average.
Yeah, really, really impressive stuff from him. And the first tip of the day was probably the least interesting tip outside of the Amir Khan situation. They end up falling here to Purdue 76-62, kind of a game that Purdue felt like they had in hand most of the time. Even though they had 19 turnovers, Braden Smith had 8 turnovers in this game. They're going to have to clean that up pretty significantly. But, you know, we talked a lot about Purdue's big three, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith, and Fletcher Lawyer. And they had 47 of Purdue's 76 in this game. So there was actually a little bit more balance than we typically see from them. Trey Kaufman-Renn, though, 22 and 15 for him. Really, really good game. This is the team that's going to play Houston, running into a buzzsaw the way the Cougars have been playing as of late. But I am interested to see if Purdue can make that one interesting. I think there's some things of that game that are going to be fun to see shake out.
Andy, where is that game going to be played?
Where is it going to be played? Is it in
it's in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. So nice. Purdue's going to have a very interesting home court advantage there against Houston. What I'm really curious to talk about, Andy, and this is a good plug for our weekend shows, is Gordon Hayward and Butler when they were the first of the 2 years they were in the national championship, that was in Indy when they played Duke. And so he's already said like he wants to talk about that on the show this weekend. So I'm really curious to see what he has to say about how that might impact this Houston Purdue game. And so that'll be really interesting. Also, Andy, I need to mention to you, if you've not seen it in the comments, Big Jack 512, who's often in our live shows, first off said sorry to me for beating me, but I'm not a Gonzaga guy. And then he said, I mean, Andy. So Andy, apologies to you from Houston fans in the chat for beating Gonzaga.
Yes, I will accept the apologies. I do like Houston. I was rooting for them in any game except for this one, but it was going to be a tough matchup regardless. Other game here, the last one was UCLA Tennessee. Kind of went exactly as we thought it was. It was a defensive focused game. UCLA just didn't quite have the power to win this one. Tennessee gets themselves a 9-point win, 67-58. UCLA had two starters combined to score 33 points in Tyler Bilodeau and Sky Clark. They didn't have a single other starter score more than two. That's just not going to get it done if you're Mick Cronin's team. So Tennessee moves on. Another SEC team going into the Sweet 16. We'll see if Rick Barnes' team can get that elusive Final Four or if they will once again get stopped between now and then.
Andy, what's interesting in it is we've been so concerned about Tennessee's offense, and they did exactly what Houston did. They went out and hit 50% of their threes while taking a couple more, 11 of 22. Chaz Lanier, goes off, has 20. Zakai Ziegler had 15. Jordan Gainey, 13 off the bench. Dude, if Tennessee is going to shoot like that, it doesn't have to be high volume, but if it's efficient, matched with that defense, guess who might be meeting in the Elite Eight? Houston and Tennessee. And I mean, that's crazy. Wow, that would be so fun. Obviously, Houston's got to get past a tough Purdue team first, and Tennessee's going to have to get past the winner of Illinois and Kentucky. I'm personally going to be cheering for Illinois because that's cheering for my bracket. And that's what I do. I cheer for my bracket, Andy. Even though I went to school in Tennessee, I usually cheer for the Vols, if they're not playing another team I love. In this case, no, because I have Illinois in my bracket, and the bracket dictates my fandom at this time of year, Andy.
Dictates all. For the folks, Sunday's early games, just as a heads up for those of you who are listening, still with us live or listening early on Sunday, UConn, Florida is the first tip of the day at 12:10 Eastern time on CBS. And then number 9, Baylor versus number 1, Duke, the second tip of the day. So you get 2 1 seeds in action early on Sunday. That game is at 2:40. Very excited to see if we will have any potential 9 or 8 seed upsets, or if Florida and Duke will continue to roll as the 2 national championship favorites right now.
Man, it's going to be crazy stuff, Andy. And we just referenced it, but we, as you said in one of the ad reads, are flying down to Dallas in the early morning hours. I've got to get up in 4 hours. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so that's going to be happening. We're going to be filming more bracket breakdown shows with Amazon. That'll be up on all your Amazon stuff. And it's a great panel. Kylan Mills, part of the Locked On Network, but she hosts in studio for Big Ten Network. She's leading the charge on that. It'll be Andy and I. We'll have Monique Billings, the UCLA star, current WNBA star, Gordon Hayward, recently retired basketball player. Apparently he used to play, Andy, is what.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I knew that.
Will be in studio with us, Tanitra Batiste, who's part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. It's a great crew, great behind-the-scenes stuff. Make sure you tune into all of that. Folks, if you're not subscribed to the show on YouTube, make sure you do that right now. If you haven't joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord to chat with all of us all the time, man, you are missing out on that. The link is in the show notes. As always, we got to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Congrats on your win today. Let's go Wild Popes. Good luck tomorrow. Cheers to McBruins, I guess, on the end of your seasons. Pour one out. We'll talk again tomorrow. Andy, I think we said we're going live on Sunday late again, right?
Let's try it. Yes.
I love it. I love it. From the heart of Dallas, Texas. It'll be great. But until then, peace.